All right, so chocolate. Who doesn't love it, right? Today we're taking a deep dive into how to ace an interview for a cocoa press operator.
Sounds delicious.
It really does. And we've got three fantastic resources from RoleCatcher to help guide us: their career guide, the interview guide, and their interview questions repository. Now, I've been digging into these,
Oh,
and
very nice.
I've uncovered some pretty fascinating insights and, well, maybe a few surprising pros and cons of this career path that I'm excited to explore with you. So welcome aboard for this deep dive. I'm so glad you're here to lend your expertise on, well, helping people crush it in interviews.
I'm happy to be here.
So let's jump right in. The interview guide kicks off with a classic question. Can you tell me about your experience working with cocoa presses? It seems pretty straightforward, but I have a feeling there's a lot more to it than just like listing your past jobs, right?
Absolutely. You're spot on. Interviewers want to see more than just a list. They're looking for you to demonstrate real hands-on experience and a deep understanding of the process.
So how should someone structure their answer to really showcase their expertise?
Think about it this way. You want to paint a picture for them. Mention any specialized training programs you've completed, any certifications you hold, and specific techniques you've used to make sure the cocoa butter is top-notch, quality and all that.
So instead of just saying, yeah, I've operated a cocoa press, you should really dive into the details, like specifics.
Exactly. Mention the types of presses you've worked with, the scale of production you're familiar with, anything that shows you've got the skills and know-how.
Got it. Now, I'm guessing they'll probably follow up with questions like, what challenges have you faced operating a cocoa press? Or how have you, made things run more efficiently in your previous role?
Oh, for sure. Those are classic follow-ups. They want to see how you handle tricky situations, your problem-solving skills. So have a few specific examples ready to go from your past experience.
Like, this one time, the pressure gauge was acting up, and
Exactly. Walk them through what happened, how you figured out the problem, and how you fixed it.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm really fascinated by the career progression aspect we see in the RoleCatcher Career Guide. It suggests that there's a lot of room to, move up the ladder. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, it's absolutely true. It's not just about pressing buttons, right? There's real skill involved. As you get more experience, you can move into like senior operator roles, maybe even supervisory positions.
Wow. So even if someone's applying for an entry-level position, it's good to show they're thinking long-term.
For sure. Mention you're eager to learn, take on more responsibility, maybe even train others down the line.
Okay, great advice. The next question in the interview guide is about troubleshooting. And this one seems like it could be a make or break kind of question. How do you troubleshoot issues with cocoa presses?
Oh, this is a big one. They want to see that you can handle things when they go wrong, that you've got that technical know-how.
So more than just saying, I'm good at fixing things.
Way more. Be ready with those specific examples from your past experience. What went wrong? How did you diagnose it? How did you fix it? The whole process.
And I imagine being able to reference specific parts of the machinery would be impressive.
Absolutely. Talk about pressure gauges, flow meters, all that good stuff. It shows you really know your way around a cocoa press.
Reading through the career guide, one thing that surprised me was, well, the physically demanding aspect of this role. It mentioned long hours, potential exposure to heat and dust. How should someone address this during the interview?
Honesty is key, right? Acknowledge that it's a demanding job and be upfront about whether you're comfortable with those conditions.
But what if they aren't sure? What if they're thinking, wait, heat, dust, long hours? I don't know about that.
That's where asking thoughtful questions comes in. Ask about the work environment, safety protocols. Show that you're thinking about it seriously.
Okay, that makes sense. It shows you're not just jumping in blindly. I'm really excited about RoleCatcher's AI features, especially for a job like this. I'm thinking specifically about the CV resume builder and the AI feedback on interview questions. Can you explain how these can help someone really nail this interview?
Think of them as your secret weapons. The CV resume builder basically tailors your application to the specific job. It finds those keywords and skills that employers are looking for and helps you work them into your resume.
That's amazing, like a personalized resume writer.
Exactly. And then there's the AI feedback for interview questions. You can actually type in your answers and get instant feedback. It's like having a personal interview coach giving you tips on how to, sound more confident and how to really impress those interviewers.
Wow, so RoleCatcher's really stepping up the game for job seekers.
It really is. And, it's all about giving you that extra edge.
Okay, let's dive into some more specific questions from the interview guide. The more prepared we are, the better, right?
Absolutely. The more prepared, the more confident you'll feel walking into that interview.
Okay, first up, how do you ensure the quality of cocoa products? The stuff that comes out of the cocoa press. Seems pretty straightforward, but I bet there's a lot more to it than just making sure it, looks good.
Oh yeah, there's a whole science to it. Think about what makes good cocoa butter, The color, the texture, the aroma, all those factors.
I see, I see. So it's not just about, eyeballing it. There are actual standards, right?
Right. And you want to show them you know how to measure and assess those qualities. Do you use like a spectrophotometer to check the color? Do you do viscosity tests? The more specific, the better.
I'm also guessing they want to know what happens when things go wrong. If the quality isn't up to snuff.
For sure. Be ready to talk about what you would do if the cocoa butter wasn't meeting the standards. Who would you notify? What steps would you take to fix the problem?
So having a plan of action ready is super important. Okay, now let's tackle this one. How do you prioritize tasks when operating a cocoa press? I imagine things can get pretty hectic in a chocolate factory.
You're not wrong. This question is all about, seeing if you can juggle multiple things at once. Think about all the tasks involved in operating a cocoa press. It's more than just, pushing a button. You've got to monitor pressure gauges, adjust flow rates, keep things clean, document all the data.
Wow, it sounds like a lot to keep track of.
It is. So you need to show them you have a system. Maybe you use a to-do list. Maybe you have a mental checklist. Whatever works for you. The key is to demonstrate that you can prioritize effectively.
Okay, let's move on to a question about record keeping. How do you maintain accurate production records? I'm guessing this is all about attention to detail, right?
Absolutely. They want to see that you understand how important documentation is, in a manufacturing setting. So talk about your process. Do you use a computer system, a logbook? And don't forget to mention those quality checks. How do you make sure the records are accurate?
Accuracy is key. Now, this next question seems a bit trickier. How do you train new cocoa press operators? It seems like it goes beyond just, the technical stuff.
You're right. This is about leadership and communication. Think about how you explain things clearly, how you demonstrate the right techniques.
It's almost like being a teacher, right?
Exactly. You need patience, and you need to be able to adapt your teaching style. Share examples of how you've trained others in the past and what made you successful.
And I imagine they also want to know how you handle challenges, like if someone's not picking things up quickly.
Oh, absolutely. Be ready to talk about a time when you faced a difficulty while training someone and how you overcame it.
Okay, we've got time for one more question in this section, and it's one that focuses on problem solving. Can you describe a time you had to troubleshoot a complex issue with a cocoa press?
It seems like there are probably all sorts of things that could go wrong.
Oh, there are. This is your chance to shine. Choose a specific example from your experience and walk the interviewer through it step by step. What was the problem? How did you figure it out? How did you fix it? And what were the results?
So no hypothetical situations, real-life examples only.
Exactly. And the more detailed you can be, the better.
All right, that wraps up this section of our deep dive. But don't go anywhere. We've got a lot more to cover, including safety protocols, career advancement, and even some tips on how to use RoleCatcher's AI tools to your advantage. So stay tuned for the next part of our deep dive into the world of cocoa press operators.
This is getting good.
I know, right? It's all about being prepared, folks. And with these RoleCatcher resources and our expert advice, you'll be ready to impress those interviewers and land that dream job. I have no doubt. And remember, chocolate is involved. It can't get much better than that.
True that. Okay, we'll be back in a flash. Stay tuned.
Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about a question that's all about keeping things safe. How do you ensure that the cocoa press operates safely? I mean, we're talking about heavy machinery here. Safety has got to be a top priority.
Absolutely. No room for error there. So, what are they really looking for with this question?
They want to know that you take safety seriously, that you're not just going to wing it. They want to see that you understand the rules and procedures, and that you're proactive about preventing accidents.
So it's more than just like wearing a hard hat and safety goggles.
Way more. Think about all the safety measures you take when operating a cocoa press. Things like lockout procedures, emergency shutoffs, all that. And be specific. Give examples of how you've identified potential hazards and what you did to address them.
So it's about demonstrating that you're a safety-conscious operator, not just someone who knows the rules,
Mm.
but someone who actually puts them into practice.
Exactly. Show them you've got a safety-first mindset. Now, while we're talking about operating the press, the interview guide also has a question about efficiency. How do you ensure that the cocoa press operates efficiently? I mean, time is money, right? Especially in a chocolate factory.
I would imagine so. You don't want any bottlenecks slowing down chocolate production. What are your thoughts on this one?
This question is all about showing that you understand the process and how to optimize it. Think about everything that contributes to efficiency. Are you maintaining the correct temperature and pressure? Are you keeping downtime to a minimum? Are you making sure materials flow smoothly? It's all
Yeah,
connected.
don't forget preventative maintenance.
Right? Oh, that's huge. Talk about how you inspect the press, how you schedule regular maintenance to prevent any major issues from popping up.
Be proactive. That's what we always say.
Exactly. Show them you're thinking ahead, that you're not just reacting to problems, but preventing them.
Now, something I'm really curious about is the career path for a cocoa press operator. The career guide mentions there's room for growth, but doesn't go into a lot of detail. What can you tell us about that?
There's definitely room to move up. As you gain experience and expertise, you might start by going from like an entry-level operator to a senior operator position.
Yeah.
You could even be responsible for like overseeing multiple presses or an entire shift.
Oh, wow. So there's real potential for advancement. What else?
You could specialize in a particular type of press or a specific stage of the cocoa processing operation. And, some operators even go on to become supervisors or managers where they train new employees, oversee production, or make sure those quality standards are being met.
So it's not just a dead-end job. There's a real career path there.
Absolutely. And that's something you can highlight during the interview. Show them that you're ambitious, that you want to learn and grow. Show them that you see this as a long-term opportunity, not just a stepping stone.
Okay, that's great advice. Let's talk a bit more about the chocolate industry itself. Does the interview guide have anything to say about that, like industry knowledge or trends?
It does. There's a question that asks, what are some of the current trends and challenges facing the chocolate industry?
Interesting. So it's not just about the technical stuff. They want to know if you're keeping up with the bigger picture.
Exactly. Show them you're not just there to press buttons. You're interested in the industry as a whole.
So what are some of the trends that our listeners should be aware of?
Well, sustainability is a huge one right now. Consumers care about where their chocolate comes from and how it's made.
Fair trade, ethical sourcing, all that good stuff.
Yep. And there's also a growing demand for organic and vegan chocolate options. People are becoming more conscious of what they're eating.
What about challenges? What are some of the big ones facing the chocolate industry today?
Climate change is a major one, as it can impact cocoa yields and the quality of the beans. And there are issues related to, like, child labor and fair wages in some cocoa-producing countries. These are tough problems that the industry is still working on.
Wow, it sounds like there's a lot to discuss.
There is, but don't feel like you need to have all the answers. Just be aware of some key trends and challenges. It shows you're paying attention, that you care about where the industry is headed.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier, passion and enthusiasm. I know it might sound basic, but I bet it makes a big difference in how you come across in an interview.
Oh, absolutely. Enthusiasm is contagious, and interviewers want to see that you're genuinely excited about the opportunity.
So how can our listener really convey that passion effectively?
Think about what first drew you to this field. Was it the artistry of chocolate making, the science behind cocoa processing, the fact that you get to be part of creating a product that people love? Let that enthusiasm come through in your answers.
And don't forget to smile.
Exactly. A genuine smile goes a long way. It makes you more approachable, more memorable.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this section. But before we move on, let's remind our listeners about RoleCatcher's AI-powered tools.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about them before, but they're just so helpful for interview prep.
For sure. They can really give you an edge.
Especially when it comes to tailoring your answers to the specific job you're applying for.
Right. The AI can analyze the job description, pinpoint those keywords and skills the employer is looking for, and suggest ways to incorporate them into your answers. It's like having a personal interview coach right in your pocket.
So if you haven't already, definitely check out RoleCatcher and explore those AI features. They're a game changer.
Absolutely. Now let's shift gears and talk about something that can be a bit nerve-wracking for many job seekers: the different types of interviews you might encounter.
Oh, that's a good point. Not all interviews are created equal.
Right. You could have a traditional one-on-one, a panel interview with multiple people, a group interview with other candidates, or even a virtual interview online.
So you need to be ready for anything.
Exactly. And that's where RoleCatcher's interview guides come in handy. They offer tips and strategies for handling all those different formats.
Okay, so let's break it down. Starting with the classic one-on-one interview, What are some key things to keep in mind?
Well, in a one-on-one, you'll typically meet with a single person, often the hiring manager or someone from HR. It's a chance to build rapport, showcase your personality, really highlight your skills and
So
experience.
it's more personal, more conversational.
Exactly. Make a strong first impression, maintain eye contact, engage with the interviewer authentically, show them who you are.
Now, what about panel interviews? Those can be a bit more intimidating, right?
They can be, but don't let the multiple interviewers throw you off. In a panel interview, you'll usually be meeting with a group of people, often from different departments. So you might have the hiring manager, someone from HR, and maybe even a potential colleague, all in the same room.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of eyes on you.
It is. The key is to maintain eye contact with each person, address them by name if you can. Make sure you're engaging with everyone on the panel.
So don't just focus on whoever asked the question. Make everyone feel included.
Exactly. And be prepared for a wider range of questions because each interviewer might have a different perspective or focus area.
Got it. Now, what about group interviews? Those can be a bit, well, chaotic, can't they?
Oh, they can. You'll be interviewed alongside other candidates who are also vying for the same position.
Sounds a bit like a reality show competition.
In a way, but you want to stand out without being too aggressive or interrupting others.
So be assertive but respectful.
Exactly. Listen to what others are saying and be ready to jump in with your own unique insights and experiences.
Okay, makes sense. Now let's talk about those virtual interviews, which, let's face it, have become pretty common these days.
They have. You'll be interviewed online, usually through video conferencing platforms, so make sure you have a good internet connection and a professional-looking background.
That's super important. You don't want any technical glitches or distractions.
Right. And dress the part. Just because it's online doesn't mean you can wear your pajamas.
Oh, definitely not.
Okay.
Treat it just like an in-person interview. And I guess practicing with the technology beforehand is a good idea, too.
Absolutely. You don't want to be fumbling with the mute button or having your camera freeze up during the interview. Test everything out ahead of time.
Okay, so we've covered all these different interview types. Do you have any, general tips for success, no matter what type of interview it is?
Oh, definitely. First and foremost, be prepared, research the company, practice your answers to common questions, and have some thoughtful questions of your own ready to ask.
Being on time is crucial, too, right?
Absolutely. Whether it's in person or virtual, punctuality shows you're respectful of their time.
And dress for success. Even if the company's casual, err on the side of formality.
Yes. And body language is huge. Make eye contact, sit up straight, smile, and project confidence.
And don't forget to actually listen. Really pay attention to the questions and answer them thoughtfully.
Yes. And be enthusiastic. Let them see that you're genuinely interested in the role and the company.
Okay, fantastic advice. Now, before we move on, I want to loop back to something we talked about earlier. RoleCatcher's AI-powered CV resume builder.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. It's really helpful for creating a resume that grabs their attention.
It's amazing how it analyzes the job description, right?
Yeah.
It actually pulls out the keywords and skills that matter most to the employer.
Exactly. And it helps you optimize your resume for those applicant tracking systems or ATS that a lot of companies use.
Right, you don't want your resume getting lost in the digital black hole.
Exactly. By using the right keywords and formatting it correctly, you increase your chances of getting noticed.
Okay, before we move on to the next section, I just want to emphasize how important preparation is.
Couldn't agree more. The more you prepare, the more confident you'll be. And that confidence will shine through in the interview.
So take the time to do your research, practice your answers, and check out those RoleCatcher resources. They're a game changer.
Absolutely. They can really make a difference.
Okay, let's move on to the next part of our deep dive. We're going to get into some really specific interview questions and talk about how to craft answers that really impress.
This is where it gets fun. We're going to give you the tools to knock those interview questions out of the park.
Okay, so we're back, ready to tackle the last part of our deep dive. And, I'm thinking we should jump right into some of those tougher interview questions. What do you think?
I agree. Let's get specific.
Okay, let's talk about one that always makes me a little nervous. What are your salary expectations? It feels like such a tricky question to answer.
It can be, but it doesn't have to be a stressful one. The key is to go in prepared. Do your homework. Use websites like Glassdoor or Salary.com.
Oh, good idea. Check out what other cocoa press operators are making.
Exactly. Get a sense of the salary range for similar roles in your area. That way, you can go into the interview with a realistic number in mind.
Okay, so let's say you've done your research.
Yeah.
How do you actually answer the question without, you know, lowballing yourself or scaring them off with a number that's too high?
Be honest and direct. You can say something like, based on my experience and the research I've done, I'm looking for a salary in the range of, and then state the range you found.
Okay, that makes sense. So no need to be vague or evasive, just be straightforward.
Exactly. And be prepared to explain why you're worth that salary. Highlight your skills, your experience, any certifications you have. It's all about presenting yourself as a valuable asset.
Okay, good advice. Now let's shift gears to a question that's a little more open-ended. Why are you interested in this role? I feel like a lot of people just default to saying they like chocolate, but there's got to be more to it than that, right?
Oh, for sure. This is your chance to show them you've done your homework, that you're not just applying to any chocolate factory.
So how do you go beyond the obvious and really make your answer stand out?
Show them you understand what this particular company is all about. Have you researched their values, their commitment to sustainability, their approach to innovation?
So it's about tailoring your answer to the specific company and position.
Absolutely. And remember, it's not just about what you can get from the job, it's also about what you can bring to the table. Highlight your skills and experience and how they align with the company's goals.
Okay, that makes sense. Now let's talk about a question that a lot of people dread. What are your weaknesses? It feels like a trap, like they're just waiting for you to mess up.
I know it can feel that way, but it's really an opportunity to show self-awareness and a willingness to grow.
Okay, so how do you answer this one without, totally sabotaging yourself?
Honesty is key, but choose a weakness that's real but not fatal, and frame it in a way that shows you're actively working to improve.
So no saying I'm a perfectionist or I work too hard.
No cliches. Pick something specific and show them you're taking steps to address it. Like, maybe you're not as familiar with a particular type of cocoa press, but you're taking online courses to learn more.
So it's about turning a negative into a positive.
Exactly. Show them you're proactive and committed to continuous learning. And speaking of learning, RoleCatcher's AI feedback tool can be really helpful for practicing these types of behavioral questions.
Oh, right. Almost forgot about that.
It can analyze your answers and give you tips on how to make them even stronger.
Okay, let's move on to another question that can be a bit tricky. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? It's like they're asking you to predict the future.
I know, but what they're really after is your ambition and your career goals. Be honest and realistic. You don't need to have a detailed 5-year plan, but you should be able to articulate your aspirations.
So is it okay to talk about wanting to move up within the company, or does that come across as too ambitious?
If that's genuinely what you want, then go for it. Just be prepared to explain how you plan to achieve those goals. The skills you want to develop, the experience you need to gain.
Okay, that makes sense. Show them you're motivated and thinking long term. Now let's tackle a question that a lot of people try to avoid. Tell me about a time you failed. It's never fun to talk about our mistakes, but I'm guessing there's a reason they're asking this, right?
There is. They want to see how you handle setbacks, how you learn from your mistakes.
So it's not about pretending you're perfect.
Definitely not. Choose a failure that's relevant to the role, but not, a complete disaster. And focus on what you learn from the experience.
So like, this one time I accidentally...
Exactly. Explain what happened, own your part in it, and most importantly, talk about what you learned and how you've grown from that experience.
Show them you can turn a negative into a positive.
Right. It demonstrates resilience and a commitment to continuous improvement. And again, RoleCatcher's AI feedback tool can help you practice this.
Well, that's a good reminder. It can help you refine your story and make sure it's coming across the way you intend.
Exactly. Now, let's wrap up with a question that's often seen as an afterthought, but it's actually a really important opportunity to make a final impression. Do you have any questions for us?
Oh, right. I always forget about that one.
It's crucial. It shows you've been paying attention, that you're genuinely interested, and that you're already thinking about what it would be like to work there.
So what are some good questions to have ready?
Think about questions that will give you more insight into the company culture, the day-to-day responsibilities, or the opportunities for growth and development. You can ask about the team, the company's values, anything that matters to you.
And it's okay to jot down questions during the interview, right? Like, if something comes to mind while they're talking.
Absolutely. It shows you're engaged and actively listening.
Okay, wow, I feel like we've covered so much ground today.
We have. We've talked about salary expectations, showcasing your skills and experience, and even handling those tricky behavioral questions.
And we can't forget about RoleCatcher. Their resources and those AI-powered tools are such valuable assets for anyone prepping for an interview.
Absolutely. They can really help you stand out from the crowd and land that dream job.
So, to our listeners, remember, preparation is key. Do your research, practice your answers, and don't be afraid to let your passion and enthusiasm shine through.
And most importantly, believe in yourself. You've got this.
That's a great note to end on. So, until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep into the world of work.